and welcome. In this podcast, I would be talking about the research report published by India Ratings and Research on the recent inflationary episode affecting the Indian population. According to INRA's estimates, the effective inflation faced by bottom 50% of the population during April to December 2022 was 7.2%, which was 40 basis points higher than the headline retail inflation. The agency's analysis reveals that a high inflationary episode driven by food and fuel items tends to erode the purchasing power of the poorest households more than the well-off households. However, there was a significant variation in this regard across the states. It's important to note that retail inflation does not affect all households in the same way, as the consumption baskets of households belonging to different expenditure strata vary. The share of food and beverages items in the consumption basket of households belonging to the lower expenditure class is usually higher than that of the higher expenditure class. Therefore, the effective inflation faced by lower expenditure households would be higher than the headline retail inflation if it is driven by food items. INRA used the Consumption Expenditure Survey to estimate and analyze the effective inflation experienced by households of different expenditure strata. However, since the CES for the latest years is not available, the last one available was for 2011 to 12, and INRA used this data with the assumptions that the consumption pattern of households remained the same in fiscal year 23 as it was in fiscal year 12. As a result, we did not account for income or substitution effects. CES divides households into 12 expenditure strata. A glance at the data suggests that the urban poorest 5% experienced 7.4% inflation during 9 months of fiscal year 23, and rural poorest 5% faced 7.3% inflation. Similarly, the urban richest 5% faced 6.7% inflation, and the rural richest 5% experienced 6.6% inflation. Overall, the effective inflation faced by the bottom 50% of the population, both in rural and urban areas, as 7.2% was 40 basis points higher than the headline retail inflation during April to December 2022. In fiscal year 22, as per the NSO, the retail inflation was 5.5%, and the contribution of core items, which excludes food and fuel, was 50.9%, which resulted in different effective inflation faced by households of different expenditure strata. The inflation faced by poorest 5% in the rural areas under such a situation was roughly 10 basis points lower than the headline retail inflation. In contrast, the richest 5% faced an inflation of 5.7%, which was roughly 20 basis points higher than the headline retail inflation. A similar trend was visible even in urban areas. In case you require further insights on the points discussed in the podcast, you can check out our research report. You can also reach out to us in case of any clarifications, comments, or observations.